Donkeys, Amy and Damien Keys here, and welcome to the hashtag nice Ask Damo show number 6. We are motoring through these. This is the show where you get to ask questions the night before on Instagram, and I will do my best to answer them depending on what has happened in the world of social media and music industry and everything else that you want to ask me a question. Like one of the questions that came through is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoying is Morgan M. James? I would say probably an 8. With me, as always, on the wheels of steel, or more importantly, the cameras and the live, it's Morgan M. James. Go and add him on Instagram. He will like that a lot. We've got Facebook Live. We have Instagram Live. So if you've got any questions or any comments or want to keep up to date, then now's your time. Now's your chance. Have we got any mail? Yes, we do! So if you've got any merch, any songs that you're releasing, anything you just want promoted, then now is the time. We have something here. Hi Damien, spelled my name right, well done. Zach here from Lark. Fantastic. I hope you like the merch, and if you don't, let me know why. That's a smart thing to say. There are 2 shirts. Feel free to give 1 or 2 to whoever think you would like it. Thank you for all your nuggets of knowledge you're giving away. It's amazing and inspiring. Hope to meet you soon in Brighton. Cheers, Zach and Lark. I hope to meet you guys too. Should we have a look at some merch? Let's have a look at this. Oh, I can see a CD as well. Love it.
That's it. What size is it?
Let's have a look. This is a large.
God.
Nice. Good design. Like that. Like that a lot. Like that. We will get a picture with that. Oh, I like that. That's good. That's in there. 5 tracks. I will listen to this. I don't have a CD player, but hopefully it'll be on Spotify, so I'll go find that. Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. In the video, we'll get a link, and I'll also do a picture on my old Instagram. So, Morgan M. James, do we have some questions?
We do indeed have some questions, Dave. So, question number 1. How to create daily social media content when you have a busy, boring day-to-day life? And that is from Dark Leaves.
When you've got a busy, boring day-to-day life, the first thing I think we should do is address that, because the 2 things I'd say is it actually a busy, boring day-to-day life? Because everyone looks online to, you know, we're living in a world now where everyone PRs themselves to death, and everyone's looking at all these Instagram people who hire a Lamborghini for the weekend or go on holiday and be like, living my best life. And then we're like, oh, how can you keep with that? How can I compete with Gary Vaynerchuk when he lives in New York and they've got skyscrapers and I've just got the sea outside? Well, the reality is the sea outside is pretty damn cool. So, and it is where it is. You know, if you live in a council estate in Glasgow, then that's real. So it's about, is it boring or are you making it boring? Are you actually saying, well, I don't think it's interesting for you, but it might be interesting for someone who lives in a different demographic? Or maybe it just is boring. Maybe you've just got a really boring life. And if you have, then I suppose part of it is you've got to be more creative with the content that you're doing. You've got to find ways of actually bringing these creations to life. Or number 2, and probably the more easier answer to this, is stop living a boring life. Like, think of all the great things that you can do to not live a boring life. So, you know, there are options. You can move. I know there's like, it's easy for me to say this, but you can move if you want to. You can go and change your friend set if you want to. There's loads of things that you can do. You can go and take new courses. You can change your job. All of these things are options available to you. So if you have a boring life, but you want to do something outside of that life which isn't boring, the first thing I would suggest is actually think of things that make your life more interesting should you want to do that. Because you are right. Who on earth is going to want to watch something that's boring? The whole point of this is entertainment. This is emotion. This is us being entertained for a certain amount of time, whether it's music or content. And so no one's going to want to watch boring stuff. I think that is the crux of quite a lot of questions that come through. Is this, if we're creating something, how do we build the audience? How do we get people to engage? Well, firstly, if it's a bit boring, they probably won't. So I would say, firstly, if it is boring, change it. But is it boring? Or have you just labeled it as boring when it actually isn't? So, I mean, that is a very quick answer, but you do need to live a non-boring life. If you're the artist, if you're an artist, you stand for something. That's what happens. So whether it's boring or whether it's not, it's got to stand for something that people will believe in. If they don't believe in it, you ain't going to cut through the noise, which is, let's face it, is what we're trying to do here. Trying to get attention, cut through the noise and have other people say, I'm with you, I can relate to that. I stand for the same things. That's your job to do as an artist. If you just say, I don't really stand for anything, but this is my stuff, then it is harder for people to relate to something unless there is something to get their teeth into. So if you lead a boring life, or if your content is a bit too boring, then you need to figure out how you can make it less boring.
Right, question number 2. How can I use the music to get enough money to cover the cost of creating with a small audience? And that is from Red Raps.
Okay, so there's a couple, just read that question one more time.
How can I use the music to get enough money?
Okay, there. How can I use the music to get enough money? There's the angle that I think people are struggling with. People really, really want to use the music to make the money. Think about this for a second. How are you going to do that? Like, you're asking me, and I'm asking you right back. How can you possibly monetize something that's free? How can you do that? So we are in this world now where we don't pay for music, and someone's watching going, actually, I bought a CD last week. Yeah, but you don't buy music the same way that you used to buy music in the 90s or the 80s, where you'd spend all of your pocket money, or every week you'd go to the local record shop and you'd buy like 5 records. Nowadays, you might buy vinyl, but that's probably old records. But the idea that you're buying the music that's in the charts week by week by week, gone. Stat, period, done. Away. So now we're making music, and unless it is attached to something like this is attached to something, so this effectively is merchandise, because I can't play this because I don't own a CD player, I don't even have one in my car, so therefore I'm buying this as a memento, as something that will remind me of the band or a time or something nostalgic. That's merchandise. But the information that's on this, which I can go and listen to on Spotify or wherever it's going to be, SoundCloud or YouTube, am I going to pay for that? No. I might pay for an iTunes single or an album if I feel close to that person, because I feel like that's my duty to do it as a friend. But as for buying music right now, I'm afraid to say, even if you do it, most people in the world, they don't do that. What they do is they pay £10 a month, if that, for Spotify, and they get all of the music that they want. Your job isn't to monetize the music. Your job is to find a way to monetize what's around the music. So we use the music to get people on board with what you do, because music is something that will bring people together. It will get people on your tribe, in your tribe. They will get them to follow you on Facebook because they love the music and what the music stands for, and you, the artist, and what you stand for. The music is at the forefront of that. The music is the bit that people go, oh, that new song is amazing. Are they going to buy it? No, they're not. But they will come on your journey with you, and then if they like the music well enough, when you come down to their local city, will they come and see you play live? Yes. Can you monetize that? Yes. Can you monetize merch? Yes. Can you potentially even monetize content? Yes. These are things that you can see that are being monetized. YouTubers are monetizing content. And if you say how to do that, well, number one, it might be a subscription charge, but it might be as simple as I give so much value that my audience builds and builds and builds, and then I have a small amount of influence, so therefore I'm a kind of small influencer marketing where I can actually demand small amounts of money, which then comes in. Is it for the music? No, it's not for the music. It's for the attention. It's for the brand. It's for the personal brand or the band's brand. And I think this is the bit where most people are falling down, where they're putting out music thinking that the music is worth money. Everything's worth money apart from the music. And then it's a case of longevity. It's a case of how long it's going to be for you to build that audience, because everybody wants it tomorrow. And the reality is it might take 5 years. It might take 10 years. So are you in it for the long haul? Are you working hard every single day? So that's the bit, really. Stop thinking about the music's going to make the money, because the music will make the money once you're selling 1 million copies. But before that, right now, it isn't going to work like that. Right now, we've got to get in with the trends of 2018, 2019, and it's not like in a year's time people are going to start buying music again. It's not going to happen.
Another great answer.
Thanks.
Okay, question number 3. Tips for Instagram growth, please. Feeling like I can't build my numbers. And that's from Sean Mer Music.
Ah, good old Sean. Sean, thanks so much for following everything. Sean's someone who just gets in touch a lot and follows my stuff, and I'm a big fan. So go and follow him, Sean Muir Music, M-U-I-R Music on Instagram. Okay, how are we going to grow Instagram? This is a really tough one because growing on Instagram 2 years ago was a lot easier than it is now. They've changed the algorithm, they've changed it. It is just not as easy. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it isn't as easy to grow on Instagram that it once was. So we've got to look at the two aspects of what will allow you to grow on Instagram, if that's your chosen platform. It's not my favorite platform, but it's somewhere where you want to grow. Then you've got to look at it from Instagram's point of view, right? Number one, what is the content that you are putting it out, and is it Instagram friendly to the consumer, not just to Instagram? So if you're putting content out on Instagram, for a start, if you are a songwriter and you're on Instagram, makes it quite hard, because all of a sudden you've only got a minute to play with. So it's a slightly different thing to YouTube, where you can play a whole song or a whole performance. You can do it on live, I know, but it just makes it a bit harder. So effectively, then it becomes personal brand, because effectively you can't put an hour-long gig on Instagram. You're not going to put a full song on Instagram. You're just going to put clips and snippets here and there. So effectively it becomes this kind of journey, this day-to-day blog. So is the content that you're putting out good for the consumer? Are they, the way they're consuming it, are they getting your story? Then is the quality good enough? Because if it isn't, are you a good enough photographer? Are you a good enough videographer? Are you cool enough to stick out from the noise? All of those three things need to be a factor. Can you make your pictures better? Can you make your videos better? Can you dress cooler? Can you have a better haircut? Can you put yourself in a place which is going to stand out from the crowd? I.e., if you're just walking down the high street taking a picture of yourself, or are you on the Grand Canyon? You know, it's these things that are going to stick out. That's the first bit. Is it good enough? Then the second bit is, how can we growth hack on Instagram? And there are ways, but it is harder. So things like hashtags. So hashtags are still a thing. Not massive, but it's still a thing. You can still put up to 30 odd hashtags into an Instagram picture. You probably are better off putting them in a comment rather than in the actual picture themselves, just because from a consumption point of view, nobody wants to scroll up and see millions of hashtags. So that's a thing, which then allows you to do things like engagement groups. If you don't know what an engagement group is, effectively, it's a group of people that all engage on your picture when you put it out, and then you do the same thing to theirs. It's kind of like a little bit of a club that you all do that. That was very big about a year and a half ago. It's not as big, but it still works. But you still have to do a lot of research on the hashtags. You still have to do a lot of work with that. It's not as simple as just having people comment and it just automatically you'll be front page of every search. Other things that you can do then is very labor intensive, but you can actually go onto top searched hashtags and start actually commenting and liking on people's pictures and starting conversations. So you're actually bringing them into a conversation and chatting with them. Again, hard work. This is hard work. If you want to grow Instagram, this is hard work. It's not as simple as just saying, I want to put my picture out there and let it go. If you want to do that, adverts. Your best bet then is literally the Facebook / Instagram advertising strategy or capability is amazing, absolutely amazing. But you have to learn how to use it. It's going to take time, or it's going to take lots of money in order to get people to your stuff to get it to grow. That's the other thing to do. So otherwise influence, you know, I think this comes down to creativity. So let me give you a couple of examples. There's a couple of people on the Facebook Live. There's a couple of people on the Instagram Live. Here, who wants this? Who wants a copy of this? First person to comment on, just say book, yes, I'll send you a copy of this in the post, whether you have it, whether you don't. This is my book, Rule Breakers Guys Social Media. First comment, I'm going to send in a post. Once you've done that, you just need to DM me your address and I will send this literally in the post. There, one thing. That's something that literally is creativity and value. What about things like, what about a shout out? Why not a shout out? Here's one, shout out on my Facebook Live. Lost Tuesday Society. There you go. Lost Tuesday Society is a band. I'm not just gonna check that out, but in a minute I'm gonna go on my Instagram. I'm gonna go and find them on Spotify. Then after that, I'm going to link them to my Spotify story. That's something I can do. What about a Skype? Who wants a Skype? My time. I will give you half an hour of my time if you type into one of my comments, #AskDamo. Do that, and I will arrange a time for you and me to have half an hour to chat about your specific band, your social media, and everything that you're doing, and any help I can give within that half an hour. My time is yours for half an hour. Those are 3 things that I've just literally thought of now that we can do. A book, a Skype, a shout out. These are things that I can do to bring value. I'm thinking of you as opposed to thinking of me. I'm going to give my time, I'm going to give my book, I'm going to take it to the post office myself, I'm going to post it, I'm going to put a nice little note into it, I'm going to do a shout out for a band. These are things that I can do on an hour by hour basis if I really want to look after my audience and if I want to build an audience and love them and look after them and grow it. Creativity and thinking of it as the audience rather than what do I want. I want to put this picture out and just saying, well, this is me, so if you want to come with me on my journey, then do it. It's more thinking of yourself than them. Why are you doing that? Here's me, here's me, here's me. It doesn't really grow it unless your story is so spectacular that people fall in love with your story and yourself and they want to come with you on that journey. If it's not, if it's just your general day-to-day life, then it's just your mates going, look, it's Damo. He's wearing a hat. You know, oh, look, it's Damo in the car. He's going to London for the day. It's not interesting enough. So what can I do for the audience so the audience want to keep coming back time and time again? And then after that, it's the consistency, how often you're doing it. Are you doing it 5 times a day? Are you doing it 10 times a day? Are you doing it 20 times a day? Are you doing Instagram lives? If you are doing those things, are you giving value at that time? So there's so many things that you can do. Most people just don't want to do them. That's the key, I'd say.
Wicked.
So I've got a question. It's a question from Damien Keys.
Yeah.
That's me.
Cool.
My question is, I get so many questions. I probably get, between comments and questions, I probably get about 100 a day. And I really do my best to answer as many as possible. That's what this show is for, to try and actually keep these questions flowing in and me answering them in front of everyone rather than on a one-to-one basis. But there's a question that never really crops up. And I think it's a question that everybody should be asking. I think it's the one question that not only never crops up, but it's the one question that always should be the first question. And that is, how do you get good enough? Because everyone is just assuming that they're good enough to be able to get 1 million likes or 1 million follows or 1 million shares, that they're good enough to get their music and get on tour and get a festival and play on Wembley Stadium. And this idea of like, how do I get a live agent? Well, are you good enough? How do I get a manager? Well, are you good enough? How do I get a record deal? Well, are you good enough? How do I sell 1 million records? Well, are you good enough? How do I sell this many EPs? Well, are you good enough? It's a question that never crops up of, hang on a minute, how do I get good enough at this to make a difference? And I think that, to me, is the question that I would like you guys to ask yourself. How do you get good enough? If you want to grow on Instagram, not how do I growth hack? How do I cheat the system? Which you can do. Everyone does that. It's no problem at all. I do that. Everyone does that. But how do I get good enough to be able to not have to do that? If I want to go and make 50 grand a year from playing guitar, how do I do that? How do I get good enough to do that? Because I can't cheat that. And like for me, making 50, 60, 70 grand a year with a guitar in my hand, piece of piss. Done that year on year for many, many years. But when I look at why, it's because I go, because I'm good enough, definitely good enough. So, and it took years and years and years of getting good enough and working on the right bit. Most of the questions I get through are one of 2 things. I don't have time and I don't have money. What should I do? You should give up. Like if you don't have time and you don't have money, they kind of negate each other. They cross each other out. If you're going, I'd love to be a world famous artist, but unfortunately, I've only got an hour a week. Well, you're going to struggle. But if you've got £1 million, you could probably pay other people to do it for you. I haven't got any money. Well, in that case, I'm out. I'm out of suggestions. Luck. You just luck it. You X Factor it. Just go on the X Factor and see what happens. That's the only thing you can do. You have to set up your life so that you are able to get good enough at something for people to pay attention to it. That is the most harshest reality I can possibly come up with. But when I'm looking through the questions, it's the one question that never crops up. How do I get good enough at this? How do I get good enough at Instagram? Go and take a photography course and spend the next 10 hours a day for the next 6 months, taking 100 photos a day, editing them, and become an absolute incredible photographer so you understand how to tell that story of your life as a photographer. Same thing with, Casey Neistat does it. Well, yeah, Casey Neistat spent 10 years of his life making world-class videos before he made the videos about himself. Of course they're amazing. He didn't just accidentally stumble into it. How did he get good enough? He told stories from when he was 15 years old up until when he was 32, when he joined up onto YouTube as a daily vlogger. How do you get good enough? That to me, and the way is, it needs time. It needs your time and you prioritizing the right things. Woo! That's a deep one.
Yeah, do you mind if I ask a bonus question?
Yes.
For the Ask Damo show. It's one that's coming on Instagram. Sahara Snow got his demo played by Radio 1 on Sunday night after introducing live. Amazing. What should he do now?
Amazing. That's an amazing thing. So you squeeze the lemon. So you've got something good happen. This happens a lot. In your life as a musician, in your life as an artist, good things will happen. It doesn't define your entire career, but it is a good thing that you can start to climb up the ladder. That is a brilliant thing. But by next week, it will be forgotten. And you can't then just walk around being like, I got on the radio. So how are you going to then get the momentum? So number one, that needs to be shown off everywhere. And the way it needs to be shown off, it needs to be done in an amazing way. It can't just be you saying, cheers for that was amazing. You've got to actually make a huge deal of this. And I would probably go and find a photographer or go and find a videographer and make a 30-second video about that happening. So it would be, it happened, how you felt about it, interviewing a couple of your audience or your fans, how incredible it was that all of a sudden they were hearing you on the radio at that level, and that becomes a source of content and advertising. So it's the content, but then you're putting money into boosting that to the right audience. So people are going, oh, that's interesting. Who's this guy? I'll go and check him out. And then that becomes the basis of advertising. An advert doesn't have to be just sell. You can sell yourself. So that's what I would do for that. But, at the same point, you've also got to find the next one and the next one and the next one. I know loads and loads of people that have mimed on X Factor. And all of a sudden, an American artist will come over and, Bruno Mars or whoever it's going to be. And all of a sudden they're in the back miming and they can go, oh, I just played with Bruno Mars. That is world class, it's life changing. But in the grand scheme of things, unless you can hook it up to the next one, it's something for the CV and 250 quid. After that, what's going to be next? So it's up to you to just keep pushing and pushing. And all of a sudden, whereas, like lightning storms, as it gets closer, all of a sudden it's one every 6 minutes, every 6 months, then it's one every 3 months, then it's one every 2 months, then one every month. And you're trying to just keep on building and building and building, using it as momentum, but also not hanging your hat on it because it literally is one thing. And so your entire career will be like this. Lots of people is like that. And even the careers that go up, they still have the ups and the downs. So one minute you're playing an amazing gig, the next minute you're playing not such a great gig, the next minute you're playing an amazing gig. Your job is just to try and keep getting these amazing opportunities as much as possible. So whatever you did to get that, now use that to try and get the next batch of opportunities.
Great.
Cool, we've had a few yeses, so we'll get a book. This book is coming to you, which we'll sort out in a minute. Any questions, then Instagram on usually a Tuesday, but if you see the hashtag AskDamo, then ask a question and we'll do our best to answer them. I'd like to do a lot more live Instagram stuff myself, so I'm going to try and do that. Otherwise, if you've got any stuff to send in that you want to get featured, like Lark, then the address will be in the video below. Otherwise, make sure you like and subscribe. Get across to my YouTube because that's what I take the most pride in. I love Facebook and I love being on Facebook, but I'm just such a big fan of the way YouTube works. I suggest you guys do the same. And anything you need, give me a shout. DMs. See you again soon.